And I really just want to thank everybody for being a part of this for the last 5 days. I think it was even more incredible than we thought it was going to be. We thought it would be good. But it was really the engagement with not just the presenters, but all of the participants. You guys were really great, asking questions, asking good questions, being respectful. I think everybody was very respectful of different opinions and stuff. I put this quote up because it's getting to be one of my favorite quotes. And it's not meant to be political. Let's just listen to the words. Change will not come if we wait for some person or some other time. We are the ones we've been waiting for. We are the change that we seek. And I think that that's kind of has been a theme through this weekend. Um, we need to speak up. We need to take action. Collaboration was a huge word that was used through several presentations. Collaborating and working together. I think I wrote a lot of things down, but let me find it. John Eagle, I think, said it really well this morning. We need to start acknowledging our diversity. I thought that was a beautiful way to say it. So, and his presentation, just in general, was a great way to kick off our day. I felt like. Um, I hope that everybody's seen really the number of people that were willing to come together this weekend for the good of Wild Horse and Burros. I think that that was pretty incredible too. So I know that me and Heather are going to be planning some future talks. I did talk to John Eagle afterward, and I said, everybody really loved you, and if there's ever any time that you want to come back and speak, let us know. And he said he will absolutely take us up on that offer. So we'll keep you posted for that. I think that that was exciting. I know Heather has a couple talks that she wants to do. I was thinking too, Heather, when we were going through the last one with Amelia from AWHC, that a talk on the NEPA process would be really good. And I know we tried to get somebody to talk about FOIAs, but we could probably tie that into a talk, or there were people that couldn't make it for this weekend that might be able to make it for a talk another time. And we'll continue trying to get legislators to come and talk to us too. We reached out to a few that weren't available this weekend, but we'll see what we can do for that and just continue the learning. And of course, I know that we talked about it a little bit in the last one. We are going to ask Bill Simpson to come back and have a talk with us. We feel like a lot was left on the table and a lot of questions still weren't answered. And like I said in the last presentation, I don't want to assume things, but there still are just a lot of questions. So hopefully he'll come back and talk and clear some of that up. That would be really great. And what we wanted to do now, I think, is I'm going to stop sharing my screen. If everyone wants to, you have the ability right now to unmute yourself. And I don't know what'll happen with the video if you want to put your video back on. If you need me to put your video on, somebody put something in the chat and I will let you know. But we thought this would be a great way just to kind of talk and just be respectful if people are talking, please. And I think that we've been really good at that this weekend. So if you guys want to just, come up on video and just share some thoughts, share some insights, ask questions if there were other questions that you had that weren't answered over the course of the summit, we'll try to answer them and just kind of, we were trying to think, if we were all here in person, there would have been some kind of a closing. So we thought that this would be a good way to close. So if you can't get your video on, or if you need me to give permission again, let me know. But you guys are welcome. Unmute yourself, throw up your video, have a conversation.
Sure. I just like to say that it's been a wonderful conference, and I really appreciate being invited to participate in this. If there were an opportunity in the future, I would like to be able to give more points about the concept of reserve design, which I support and is greatly related to the rewilding. And I know you had the lady from Kana Foundation talking a lot about rewilding. So I
Well,
just think
that was Jatara from she's from Love Wild Horses, I think.
oh yeah, but I mean, she wasn't. I guess I'm getting confused about the conference, but I guess it was on the Save Our Wild Horses Wildlife
Right,
Conference.
we did. Yeah,
Yeah,
she
that
was
was
there for that one.
yeah.
Mhm.
But yeah, I just like the opportunity to talk more about in the broad scale about the merits of the reserve design, which is actually a branch of conservation biology that I studied. I started at Berkeley, and I think it just has a lot going for it, where you design a reserve in various ways and you tailor this reserve design for each particular herd and area for its uniqueness and with respect for the nature of the horses and burros,
Yeah,
their
absolutely,
their
Craig.
needs.
Get in touch with me and Heather. I think that we can set up a talk for that,
Okay.
and get something set up. Some people are asking for some of the information and maps and stuff. We're gonna send an email out to all of the presenters and just ask them if they have handouts that they want to share, or maps, or even just website contact information, and we'll get all that put on our website. I just want to let you guys know I did get all of the videos through Thursday are up. I'm hoping to get through Friday today, and I may be able to work on some tomorrow. The rest of my week is going to be dedicated to testimony for the Theodore Roosevelt horses, and that's happening on Thursday and Friday. And I do ask everybody, please, to make sure that you take a moment just to submit testimony. I have information on our website at chwha.org. We're trying to get federal protection for the herd, and we're also trying to get the state to form a working group similar to what they did in Colorado. So that's going to require, the more that people submit testimony in support of, it carries a lot of weight with the committee on if they're going to pass this or not. So it's something new. It's going to create a new law in North Dakota. And we know legislators are sometimes a little bit iffy on if they want to create new laws. So just showing support for that would be great if you guys could just take a minute to submit written testimony. The other one is a resolution simply asking for federal protection. So I will put the link for the survey. Yes, please. That's another, if you can just take 2 minutes to put take our survey and just let us know how we did. Um, this is something I think absolutely is needed. And I think Heather and I have already started talking about what to do different next year. So I do think that there will be a summit again next year. So um, absolutely taking the survey will help us. And it also helps our organization as a nonprofit, and we do have an educational theme. So the results of the survey will also help us hopefully get some kind of funding. Maybe we can do some different things next year, and just, some funding to support our educational things. So please do take a moment to take the survey. And I don't know if anybody else has anything else that they want to share, anything that you guys want to talk about. Nobody wants to come on video.
I would like to say something, but I don't want to be on video. My makeup's
Okay,
not
go right
on.
ahead.
I I can be very honest here, right?
Yes.
I hearken back to what Holly said and what Eric said. There's so many voices talking and all different angles, and the BLM and the cattle people thrive on that and use it. How are we all going to learn to speak with one voice about one thing, then
Yeah.
move to the next thing, and then move to the next thing? We can't, as the Stone said, you can't always get what you want, but we got to
Right.
try something because the horses are losing out.
Absolutely. And that's why we had this summit, so that we hopefully came up with new ideas, new thoughts. I can tell you that there is not a speaker that spoke that I did not learn something.
Yeah.
Michael Standard, who was the journalist that we spoke with, I've met with him in person. I have talked to the press extensively over the last 3 years, like all different aspects of the press. And I learned a lot from his presentation today. I mean, there was not a speaker that we didn't learn something from, or even just learn to take a different perspective. And again, I'll go back to John Eagle. I think that his presentation was such a nice way to start today. Um, he was very calm, very in a very different perspective. And I think one of the things we have to remember is that, like he said, we actually communicate with words 7% of the time. Honestly, the rest of the time we're expecting people to read our minds, right? we want to know, when I asked him, and I'm glad that we brought it into the conversation ahead of time, I said, advocates want to know, why aren't the Native Americans involved? He said, because you guys never ask us. We're always an afterthought. And that's probably true, right? We think that they're going to speak up. Well, they don't know anything more than what they're being told either. And um, I think that there were a lot of great insights in there. And I also like that he said that if we just treated each other with the respect that we are all related, and so Ginger, we may disagree about something, but hey, we're related. You're my spiritual sister, and we might disagree on this, but there's a million things that we do agree on, and that's where we need to start working on. So we need to keep our voices loud. We need to contact our legislators on every level and just get those relationships established. And even just like what Chandra Pierce said, even all the things that are happening right now in the government, where there's just things that are not normal for most of us, and things that most of us disagree with, contact your legislator and say, hey, what the heck is going on? And what are you doing about this? Because if they don't hear from us, then they think that we think it's okay, right? We have to communicate with our words more than 7%. Nobody, I think that there are very few people that can read minds in today's society. Um, so that's what I have to say about that. Anybody else have anything they want to share?
Well, Chris, I don't think there's anything I can think of that we disagree on.
That's why we're spiritual sisters.
That's right.
Hi, Chris. This is Terry.
Hi.
I just think that you guys did an awesome job putting this together. I think it motivates people. It's like you just saying, talk to your legislature. I don't do that enough, but I also to get your friends to do that or your family to do it.
Exactly. Yes.
And because to me, I have a congressperson that's, very one-way thinking, but I think if he hears from a lot of people, maybe he'll open his mind up to have a different conversation. And I just that it's, I was taking notes all the time. The fact that, I could listen to it again is really, really great. So I just feel that if people just come together and they know we're a force, it'll get out there. It's like the 100th monkey. It gets to a point where it'll just get out there. So
Right.
I think we have to keep going. So I appreciate y'all.
Well, thank you. We didn't expect it to be, so we asked presenters to have a half hour for their presentation. And as you guys know, some of them went over, and that was fine. And then we thought we would have a half hour for question and answer sessions. And then I told Heather, I don't want there to be a question and answer session where there's good dialogue going on. So let's pad a half hour onto that. And I can tell you, for the last 5 days, me and Heather have been at every single presentation. And there were times where we had, I think one time we had, I think today we had 5 minutes, maybe 4 or 5 minutes between. And I think that at the most we had a half hour. So next year we absolutely will try to pad more time in here, and also maybe have presenters have a realistic expectation on what their time will be for their presentation, and maybe not to go over an hour, but so that we can leave enough time for a Q&A, because that's where we lost some things and didn't get to have as much of a conversation. Like the Q&A with Amelia was great because she stuck to her half hour presentation, and then you guys just kept asking questions, and so that was really good. But for most of the people, we were really rushed, I felt like, and I don't want you guys to feel that way either. So yeah, anybody else have anything they want to share?
Chris,
My
this
name's
is
Deborah West in Utah. I run Liberty Sanctuary and Equine IQ. I wanted to just thank you for your leadership and for setting up such an incredible program over these days. I've really enjoyed it. Holly Bice mentioned it to me, and when I saw the lineup and what you were doing, I was really excited to listen in. Also want to mention that, we started a few years ago, and there are things that, we all can do. We launched safeact.org, which is a site that enables people to easily support that legislation. And, we're updating it now for the new Congress, but the site features AI. So we kind of made it for people who really didn't know how to write a letter. And so it actually writes the letter for you. You're able to click in and customize it as much as you want, but it identifies your legislators. And just throwing this out there, this technology, we're partnered with a Silicon Valley developer, and it can be used for other issues as well. So if anyone's interested in learning more about that or how it can be implemented, I'm happy to help connect the dots, but also invite you guys to visit safeact.org.
Well, thank you.
And thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate all that. And so if anyone missed any of the sessions, I started putting them on our YouTube channel, Chasing Horses, Wild Horse Advocates. They're on the links are, I've been putting every individual one on a link on our Facebook page. So we're almost through Friday. And like I said, it'll take some time. It's a process. I've been uploading and exporting and downloading things that like in between the 5 or 10 minutes that we've had, I've tried to run to my other computer and have something like right now. I think that Victoria's is exporting and it's going to take probably about 45 minutes or so. So when we're done here, then hopefully I can upload it to YouTube, which then takes however long YouTube does. And so we'll get them up as soon as we can. I know Heather's going to work on taking the videos from our page and putting them on hers too, and really just sharing and spreading the information. That's so I don't know if anybody else has any other questions or anything else that you want to share or questions that weren't answered. I know that Heather's presentation was cut a little bit short, and so we didn't have a lot of time for Q&A. So if you guys have questions for Heather, and then Deborah West, if you can put your contact information in the chat, people are asking how to contact you. The cost was minimal, Kim, and that's another reason why we did it online. If we were looking to do this in person, I know when I went to, and Heather, you probably know better than me, the Save Our Wild Horses Summit, their conference in Washington, D.C. Number one, Washington, D.C. is expensive. So it was expensive to stay at the hotels there. But I think the summit was around $200 a person. Am I right, Heather?
For year 2, it was around $200. Yes.
That's why we thought that this was better. Having it virtually, and there are a lot of people that, let's be honest, like can't travel, either they can't afford to, or their health doesn't let them. This let everybody be a part of it, and I think that was a good thing. I know that Heather would like to do something in person, and that's something that we can definitely look at, making it in person with a virtual aspect. But we thought that we might have a few people that were interested, and the response was really overwhelming. So so we're glad. I mean, it's a good thing, and then hopefully the word gets out. And I know toward the end, as we were getting closer to the summit, we started having a lot of speakers contacting us saying, hey, can we be a part of it? Can we be a part of it? And finally, at one point, we had to just say, we added a whole nother day onto this. So we could have gone on really with the people who were contacting us for another probably day or two. So we want to just make sure that that we're getting good people, and we'll look at how we can correct this next year and, correct some things or make it better. And yeah, David, we're not sure if we would get the participation, but it would also give us the ability to lobby Congress, which is also, but that's something that other groups are doing too. Linda gave her talk about that. And so those are things too. And those are places where, yes, we need to try to work together with other people and other organizations so that we can, maybe we help educate people. And now some of you guys go to Washington, D.C. That would be great. Break it up so it's not 5 days in a row, right? That would be great. We might do it. Maybe we'll do it over the course of a month and do it on weekends. I'm not sure, but then there's some people that weekends don't work for either. So you know, I was surprised how many people participated today on a Monday. I mean, it was really, it was just, you guys were really incredible. Your participation was incredible. And all the questions that you guys asked were really great too. But yeah, breaking it up would definitely be good. I think that Heather would agree with that because it got to be some pretty long days. I know, um, I haven't seen my husband or my mother for more than probably 10 minutes at a time. And every time I came out of where I'm doing this, my mom would say, "Oh, are you done that?" No, not yet. So, and even today, she knew that we were usually done. She's like, "What are you doing now?" I'm like, "One more, that's it." So, so yeah, breaking up the 5 days, Heather, probably would be a good. We didn't think it was going to be 5 days. Like we had originally thought, right. I know not as many each day, but then who should we have cut, Kim? I mean, that's the point where me and Heather had gotten to. So many great people were contacting us, and um,
And we
so
still had people contacting us right up to a week beforehand that we said, I'm
exactly
so sorry. Like, it's such short notice at this point. We can't, extend the schedule and change things and everything. So I think that, and actually before Terry even typed that out, Terry, I had thought of that same thing, break it up because if we do longer sessions, 2 hours at a time, as opposed to an hour and a half for more questions and answers, obviously we're not going to get in as many speakers a day. And if we had done that this time, we'd have been a 6 or 7 day conference as it was. So yeah, I
right.
think, 3 weekends, maybe 2 or 3 weekends, next January, something like that.
The other thing too was for like this year, I knew that we were going to have legislation in the North Dakota legislature, and I had no idea until I don't think till last Thursday or Friday when they were going to be meeting in front of the committees. So I thought it wouldn't be this week coming up, but I was also wrong. So I will have a very busy week doing legislation stuff too. So we could also, Heather, I was thinking too, do a lobby day where people don't have to go to Washington, D.C. They can set up appointments either virtually or go meet with their local office. That
Yeah,
might be another.
absolutely. Yeah, and we could do a Zoom beforehand and teach them what kind of facts to have on hand and what they can talk about during that. And yeah, definitely.
So I mean,
See, I just had a question. Did any government or official or legislators attend this?
we had a video from Senator Hoven that we shared a few times, and if you haven't seen it, it's a 2.5 minute video. Heather can probably throw it up because her audio works better than mine. But we had that, and then I did talk to, and this is, I'm going to stay with it. I'm trying to establish a relationship with Congresswoman Julie Fedorchak, who's new. And they were trying to get somebody to speak. And I think that just, I think Washington DC is just insane at the moment. So I don't blame any of them. But
Yeah, I just
and
want to add that we sent out invites to Cohen, Titus, Schweikert, who I really wanted to have on, and also Pingree's office. I don't know if any of you are from Maine, but it turns out that your representative Shelley Pingree is a huge fan of wild horses. But with all the craziness going on and the new administration coming in, they just couldn't commit this time around.
But I think that that's something where, Heather, we can just keep trying to talk to them and see if they can commit to whenever, and we'll just make it happen. You know what I mean? Whatever their schedule is. Because I think that it's good for you guys to hear from them. Also too, as great as Senator Hoven's video was, I hope that people are really listening. That's another thing, Heather, that we want to talk about is appropriations. Senator Hoven said in the video that, and I don't know how many of you know this, in the appropriations bill, and he's on the appropriations committee, but that doesn't change. Every legislator can send in, suggestions for what they want to see money appropriated for, or what they want appropriations in. Um, and he used the appropriations bill to put language in that helped save the Theodore Roosevelt horses. And he said in that video that he will continue to do that. He's let advocates know he will continue to do that, and he absolutely has. And there will be, just watch some information coming out on things that we're working with his office on the appropriations. But that's something that all of you can reach out to your legislators to to get them to put language in the appropriations bill or ask for, a cut for the BLM in their sterility programs or something like that. Is Hovind willing to commit to other wild horses? Here's what you have to remember. Hovind is a senator from North Dakota. So he listens to what the people of North Dakota say. That's his job. So in North Dakota, our only wild horses are the Theodore Roosevelt National Park ones. He did also, another thing that he has repeatedly done, and it wasn't just with Doug Burgum, but he has put people on the spot and said, hey, I'm working to keep these horses in the park. If we appoint you to this position, do I have a commitment from you to continue to work with our office? And now Secretary Burgum did tell him yes. And truthfully, Burgum has been, again, a staunch advocate for these horses in the park. Will he take that to the Western Range? I hope so. I truly hope so. I don't see how he can make sure his own horses are protected in his backyard and not do it to the other ones. But then, like Chad had said, if you guys listen to his talk, and his presentation is up on YouTube, and it was another really a great presentation. But this is the first time that we're going to have somebody in the Secretary of the Interior that's not coming necessarily from a ranching background. Burgum is more energy. He does have ranching history, but like Hovind said in the confirmation hearing, Hovind loves horses, Burgum loves horses, Burgum's wife loves horses. So, can we just take care of the North Dakota horses? So that's where your legislators also need to reach out to him and say, hey, our wild horses here, are you talking to Burgum's office? Ask your legislators that. You have a right to know that. Maybe they don't know that that's something that they should be doing. Have you reached, they have different people that they talk to in those offices than we do. So they have ways that they can communicate with them too. So, yeah, we're cautiously optimistic. That's what Chad said. And I thought that was a good way to put it. I think that we can't project negative energy, right? Like it's going to be the same thing, or they're going to shoot all the horses. Let's not go there, right? If that happens, then we need to get our voices louder and stop these things from happening. We can't just accept things anymore. So.
Can I answer, sorry, I was just typing a response here. I think I would like to cover Mary's comment, but I wanted to answer Angela's. She says, I have a really bad cold, so I don't want to jump on, but I did want to mention that it would be really interesting if some wild horse advocates bought out grazing leases for a while. It would stop some of the roundups, at least until other actions are foreseeable. And I just want to point out that out of the 165 HMAs we have remaining, there are 4 that have no grazing leases on them. Pryor is one, Little Book Cliffs is one, Spring Creek Basin is one, and I can't ever remember what the 4th one is. Ginger might know. Not having grazing leases on those HMAs is not stopping the roundups. So what I really sort of desperately need for you guys to understand is that I don't like fertility control. I wish it didn't have to be used. I know Craig is going to disagree with me on this, and he and I have had some conversations, and we respect each other's opinions on the issue. But when you have a herd such as McCulloch Peaks, I'll just use that one for example, because I know it's 108,000 acres, give or take, and those horses are fenced in. And I know for a fact, having spent countless days in that area, that the entire north third, and Chris will attest to this because I drove her up the road, showed it to her. The entire north third of the HMA is badlands. So there's very little forage out there for the horses, which means they've just got the bottom 2/3 of the HMA with good, healthy forage. That HMA, I'm sorry, it could never support 1,000 horses. So whether there's any grazing inside that HMA or not, and there is in McCulloch Peaks, there's 4 grazing allotments, but whether those were used or not, as lovely as a thought as it is to buy out the allotments, which first of all, BLM would just never allow. They won't allow you to own an allotment and not use it for something. And of course, their preferential use for that is livestock. And they will stop you from buying a permit if you don't intend on using it for livestock, because that's what they deem them to be there for. But it won't stop the roundups. And I'm really sorry to say that. We need better herd management planning for each of these areas. And just again, as much as I hate to say it, the only fertility control that I would even accept that they use would be the native PZP, because it is really just as similar as a woman being on birth control, reversible, et cetera, et cetera. I've spent enough time with the McCulloch Peaks herd. That herd is darted and has been darted with PZP native for quite some time. And that herd does have normal band dynamics. I have seen stallions try to breed mares who I know for a fact have been treated. So to me, it's just the only way to stop the roundups truly. And it's unfortunate because the horses don't get to truly free roam, and there just isn't enough space in some of these HMAs to have exceptionally large herds. I'm just going to finish that up with saying that McCulloch Peaks AML is 70 to 140. And 140 is a ridiculously low number, and there's no reason why we couldn't increase the AML in McCulloch Peaks to at least 350. They might need supplemental water in the summer if the rains are low, but there would be enough forage out there to support a herd of that size.
Wendy, I'm just gonna say, you guys talking about Senator Hoeven, and this is where I think this is something Heather and I have talked about too, and something I think we can look more into. Part of the problem comes that for the last 3 years, I've been very exhaustively fighting for the Theodore Roosevelt horses. Unless somebody says to me, hey, Chris, can you share this? Or, hey, Chris, this is happening. Or like Mary has, we've been talking a lot about Devil's Garden on our page. I honestly don't have the bandwidth to know anything else that's happening. I cannot probably formulate an EA, read an EA and formulate all the research that goes into writing a proper comment on my own. And I'm not the only one. This is what happens. And our lawyers have told us, and other advocates, I'm sure Ginger, you can tell us, the BLM, the Forest Service, the Park Service, they all drop their plans to round up horses at the same time so that we're all individually scrambling. We're all trying to save our own herd. And I can't see what Ginger's doing. Ginger can't see what Craig's doing. We have no idea what Heather's doing because we're all so focused on saving our horses. So I don't know. It's not that Senator Hoeven maybe would, if I lobbied him for the SAFE Act. I haven't been able to do anything but lobby him to save the Theodore Roosevelt horses. Like, that had to be my first priority because it's been such a battle. And for people who don't know, we fought for 2 years. When the EA came out, the first EA, they were going to keep some horses and they were asking, oh, what do you think? What should we do? What do we miss? And then came back in December and said, yeah, well, we decided we're getting rid of all of them. Nobody sent them a message saying get rid of all the horses. They had 19,000 comments and only a handful were in support of what they were doing. So nobody was saying get rid of the horses. We fought for 2 years. Not knowing what was going to happen, raising our voices, getting national and international attention on this issue and on these horses, and, working with everyone, the tribes, the state historic preservation officer, the governor, our senators, our local legislators, our county people, and we talked about that in our presentation. And then they said that they were keeping the horses, and I told everybody in April, we can't let our guard down. We have to keep pushing forward. And sure enough, 6 months later, they were there to round up all the horses, inject all the mares with Gynacon, and we had 2 weeks to fight that. So in those 2 weeks, I couldn't even see my hand in front of my face. I can tell you that. I was doing everything I could, including crying every day, wondering how we were going to stop this. So once we get things a little bit more under control, in the Theodore Roosevelt herd, so you guys are aware, there are 4 female horses that have not been treated with Gynacon, and the only reason is because they were just born last year. And the chief of resource management let me know that. I said, I'm assuming since we've been so aggressive with Gynacon that you won't be out there with your dart guns next year. And he said, oh, we sure will. We're halting the reproduction of this herd. And Ginger, one more time, please say, what does that mean? Because people think that, we're going to give them Gynacon and we're going to give them 3, 4, 5 injections and they're going to return to fertility. We don't know. He even said, we don't know. I don't know if we take mares off, if they will return to fertility. Then what are you doing?
You already see the mares that have not returned to fertility in 12 years.
Right.
You have them, you have them, you have the proof. And Chris, I would like to say something. Please do not sell yourself short. You have done so much work for this Teddy Roosevelt National Park herd. You've done so much. You have shown the way to other advocates how to get things done. You have gotten more done in these 2-3 years than anybody. And what you have done is created a roadmap for other places that have a herd that they love, that tourists come to see. Now they know how to go and advocate for that herd. You have laid the groundwork. You have done amazing work. And I am always in awe of your nonstop energy and dedication.
I'm running out of energy. I'm letting you know that, but
Yeah,
but I appreciate that, but I'm trying to answer to why. So because of all of the dedication to the Theodore Roosevelt herd, I don't have time to say to Senator Hoven, and I mean, let's be honest, I met with his office in November, and absolutely, Heather had a whole beautiful packet of information that she put together. We had a conversation about the Theodore Roosevelt horses, what our plans were, what next steps were, how do we not have any more roundups, what are you doing about it? And then I said, by the way, I'm leaving you with another packet of information because there are problems on other Western lands, and we need to look at this because there's a big problem. I will also let you know I'm very proud of this, and you know, it remains to be seen what will happen, but during the roundup, and this is again why it's so important to have relationships with reporters also, and we talked about that during Michael's presentation, and also giving factual information. So I've been talking to Patrick Springer, who I said was a wonderful reporter that's been really covering the Theodore Roosevelt horses more than anybody else in the state. And there have been times people don't understand either that I've been on the phone with Patrick for hours at a time, explaining the issue, telling him what we found, sharing information, helping him write a story, putting him in contact with people. And when the roundup came in October, he was talking to Senator Hoven's office, and he called me and he said, "Hey, are you sitting down?" And I said, "Yeah, what do you got for me, Patrick?" And he said, "So part of their plan was to remove non-responders to Ganacon." And I said, he goes, "So they're not going to remove any horses?" And I said, "Great. Are they going to still hand inject the mares with Ganacon?" And he said, "Well, yeah, I think they're still doing that." And I said, "Then you know what? I would have rather said a tearful goodbye to 15 horses. If they're going to hand inject every mare in that herd, it's over." And he actually got on the phone and called Hoven's office back. And Hoven said, in once the roundup was over and things had happened, Senator Hoven has said over and over and over again, that the park needs to be transparent with the public. They need to share their management plans. They need to talk to advocates. They need to work with the state. And the park, of course, is doing none of this. And he also said, and we're going to keep an eye on what they're doing with this Ganacon, because now he's aware. That's huge, right? What he does with that information now, I don't know, but I can tell you we have had a lot of conversations with his office about it, and he really is aware that this is their silent way to get rid of the herd, and he's not real happy about it. So those are things, educating our reporters, legislators, anyone that you can. And that's really all I did. So when people say, and Ginger, thank you, that it was incredible, I did not do anything that nobody else, any of you can do. It was a lot of time. This has changed my life in ways I can't even tell you, but there's still a herd of horses at Theodore Roosevelt National Park, and I take pride in that. So
I thank you for that, because I actually visited that herd of horses this summer, and I actually think I was in your shop. But like, I wasn't being snarky. It's just that you have Senator Hoven, and he's admitted publicly that he loves wild horses. Right. So you saying that you also handed him Heather's packet, I think that's where the collaboration comes. You have an advocate. Can we use him to advocate for all the horses and not just the North Dakota horses.
No, that's something that honestly, all of you are welcome to call his office and say, hey, Senator Hoban, we appreciate you being such a strong advocate for the Theodore Roosevelt horses. Can we please get you to sign on to the SAFE Act? You guys can do that.
Okay.
You know, and Heather, I hope that you can share, because I forget all the time. I call it toilet paper math. You know, we go to the store and you buy 6 rolls of toilet paper and somehow it equals 18. But Heather, what is one phone call to a congressman's office? What are they?
Oh, it's 5. I think it's 5,000. I think I
It
know
is
the answer to that one.
5,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I read that somewhere.
So imagine that impact, you guys. One person makes a phone call and they think 5,000 other people think the same way. If 10, 12, 20 of you are making that phone call, how great is that? Even if you guys aren't part of North Dakota, you want Senator Hoban to sign on to the SAFE Act, call his office and say that. We thank you for what you did for the Theodore Roosevelt horses, right? It was great. Now I want you to please, can he sign on to the SAFE Act? Maybe he doesn't even know the SAFE Act exists. I don't know. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. Both of my senators are on the appropriations committee too.
Chris,
So,
Barbara Moore, can I jump in for a second?
Go right ahead.
I see that Wendy is from New York. I am also from New York, and
Oh, cool.
I crossed that bridge of thinking that nobody in New York would care. And I was on my own. I had to teach myself how to do something really attention getting right out of the gate. Because if you ramble on and on and on with lots of facts, before you have them engaged, they're going to totally blow you off. So, Wendy, I'd be thrilled to talk to you and figure out where we both are and let you see what we're doing.
That's
And
awesome. I think I have your email address. Did you give it out earlier when you're talking?
Probably. I'll type it in right now so you can
Okay,
see
I'll
it.
write it down because I'm looking through my notes.
And the other thing that I wanted to say, and you're going to have to forgive me because I'm jumping back 3 or 4 subjects. When you talked about Senator Bergen being more of an energy guy than he was a rancher guy, before anybody talks to him, do a little research about the way the energy business is underlying a lot of the cattle business.
Yeah.
Because that's a very revealing thing. And, you know, the cattle people scapegoat the horses. And I think the energy people, and this is a guess, I think the energy people are going to scapegoat the cows and the poor sheep. And, you know, it all comes down to native versus invasive. And the other factor that I am really adamant about, and I don't know what direction I'm going to go with it yet, but I am going to go. AML is BS. Let's all use initials. AML is the figment of somebody's very, very creative imagination. And every time we get on the airwaves and talk about this is the AML, we're giving into it. And we have to stop doing that.
No, certainly. No,
I'm done.
I don't disagree with you on that, Barbara. You're absolutely right. I
can tell
I have
you-
this dream of creating a graphic with a guy wearing a BLM shirt, sort of in a position where, for lack of better wording, you guys, and I'm sorry, where he's literally pooping out pieces of paper with AML levels on them. You know what I mean? Like
That would be awesome.
I started to create it one day and I just never got any further with it. Barbara, somebody's asking if you have a good piece of literature on energy, I guess in relation to livestock.
Energy in relation to livestock. No,
I
but
guess, you know, I just want to quickly say, and then I want to go up and just cover, I'll look for it while I'm talking. I just want to quickly say to you guys, you know, the wild horse and burro issue on our public lands is vast. And there are, you know, many people out there, Craig and Ginger, who are far more informed than even I am. They've been doing this so much longer. Laura Lee with Wild Horse Education, Teresa Barber with Oregon Wild Horse Organization, Gail Hunt with like there's so many people out there who just have such a much better grasp on it. And the reason that I'm saying this is even I become overwhelmed at times with the amount of information that is out there, and don't feel like you need to know all of it. If you have a specific question, reach out to somebody, to Chris, to me, to Ginger, to Craig. Laura Lee often even goes ahead and answers all of her emails with a quick response if you have a question for her. Sorry for the birds chirping, but that's a young family of Java finches out there on my water spa. So just don't get too overwhelmed with everything. Find sort of a niche within it and become really good at that. And then if you have questions about something else about it, then reach out to one of us. But become as much of an expert as you can. So sorry, you guys. I'm trying to, somebody keeps calling me. Okay, I'm gonna mute my phone. So I wanted to cover a couple of Mary's points that she put into the chat box here.
Can I just say one more thing, Heather? And then
Yeah.
I'll, the biggest reason why Hoven and Burgum care at all about the wild horses, let's be honest, we made our voices so loud they couldn't not care. That's the truth. And that can be done anywhere, anytime, any place. It doesn't matter. I never say if I'm Democrat or Republican. And I'm going to tell you another thing that I've learned is that working with the other parties in your state, if you're a Republican state and you feel like you're not getting anywhere, talk to your Democratic senators and representatives. They'll help you navigate through the system. I guarantee you that. But the big thing is our voices got loud and they stayed loud. So that's what we need to do.
Chris,
And so-
it wasn't only that your voices got loud, but you showed them how it was affecting their state and their constituents.
Right. All right, Heather, it's all you.
Sorry, guys, I have to take this phone call, so I'm gonna let you talk for a couple more minutes and then I'll come back in. I'm sorry.
Okay. So let's see what she wanted to go over Mary's, so I'll let her do that. There was a lot of information. I know that. I feel like and each one was just like so great. It was really, we appreciate everybody who took time to be a part of this.
Okay, I'm sorry.
So-
That really was super quick.
Okay.
Mary's note here is getting farther and farther up the chain, and let me find it again. She says, please build a group email or similar channel. And I saw either Mary suggested this a couple days ago or somebody else did, but does anybody have any suggestions of a good program we could use where we could all come in and have sort of a group, or do you guys just want to like start a group email chain? I know those can get kind of complicated and convoluted sometimes, but if you guys have a suggestion of a certain program or something you think might be easiest to use.
I think you
at
can.
one point go ahead, Ginger.
Oh, I was going to say, I think you can really get bogged down in these
I
chains.
know.
I was involved on a lot of different chats on Facebook Messenger. I finally had to turn it off. I was constantly just bing, 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 constant things coming in and asking same old questions over and over and over again and trying to educate people. I finally just had to turn it off because I couldn't get a thing done.
So Chris and I do have another Facebook page. We could use that advocacy actions page, right? And just open it up, Chris, and let people post things.
I was just looking at that, Heather.
But what I would request of you all, if we do that, is that a private page, Chris, or public? I can't remember.
I think we can make it public. I would do that.
Well, what I was
It's
thinking was though,
private.
is if okay, let's leave it as private. Can you share the link to it in the chat box?
Yes.
And what we can do is let you guys turn that into a place where if you have questions, you can create a post. I think right now only Chris and I can do posting, but we'll change that permission. But what I would ask as a gigantic favor to you guys is that I don't want it to become like every other wild horse page out there. So please do not share things that every other single page out there is sharing. Please use the page specifically for action items. Like Chris will put action items on there with her blogs, and that's great. But let's keep it very focused on, I'm going to have a meeting with my senator next week. What do you guys suggest I say? Or I sent in a letter to my representative and they came back and said, well, if we don't round up the horses, what else do you suggest we do? How should I reply to that person? Let's keep it very specific about what this conference was about, which is advocating on behalf of our wild horses, not sharing photography pictures and articles that are, available everywhere else
I
all
think
over
that's a
Facebook.
great idea.
Yeah,
I
as
think
long
that's-
as you guys agree to that, we're willing to open up that page to that. So we'll go in and change those settings for you guys. And then she's also asking, and I think somebody else did too. I don't know, Chris. I mean, I know how just super busy you are, but what do you think about having like a meeting every 6 weeks or so, where we can all get back together and also maybe sort of discuss the same things?
We can do that.
Okay.
Yeah, we can do that.
All right.
I also think that this kind of a format with a Zoom and people turning on their videos and audios makes it a lot easier than trying to read the comments in chats that go on forever and ever. So having an open forum on a Zoom is really nice.
The only thing, the reason why we left everybody muted is one, out of respect for the,
Oh, you had to, yes, you had to.
Oh,
I'm
we had
talking
to.
about this right now.
and then well, like this, yeah, where we can get together and talk. And
Yeah.
that's what I told Heather. When I said, we should have some closing. She's like, yeah, we actually should. And she goes, what are we going to do? I said, just open up the floor, let people talk. And she was like, are you sure? And I'm like, let's just see what happens, right? So yeah, that's why we were just trying to control the questions and stuff more for the individual speakers. But yeah, this, I think we can do this, and talk more. We can make time for that. Anybody else have anything to share? Thoughts, questions?
I gotta go give my dog her pill.
Diane is pointing out in the message box, and Diane lives in a very, okay, I'm not going to say where she lives. Diane is a good friend of mine. We've traveled together out to see wild horses, and she is very good at asking for in-person appointments with her legislators, you guys. So with her senators and her representative, and she has had in-person meetings with some of them. And sometimes she'll take a friend with her. Sometimes she goes by herself. She usually calls me beforehand and says, is it okay if I talk about this, this, and this? And I'm like, yes, absolutely. So what she's saying in the message box is that when you're trying to get a meeting with your legislator, it might take several requests to get that meeting, and that's okay. It's okay, you guys. Just keep at it. Don't request one meeting and then give up. If you don't hear from them on week 1, you request it again on week 2. And then
Right.
if you don't hear from them 2 days later, you call them and say, I have asked for a request for a meeting, and I was wondering if we could go ahead and schedule that. And check the congressional calendar, which you can Google congressional calendar, and usually the one by Steve Scalise pops up. But check to see when your representative is in DC versus in your home state, and check to see when your senators are in DC versus the home state. And if you can request an in-person meeting at the local office in your state and be able to meet them there, do that. And I think what Michael said earlier about inviting the reporters for a cup of coffee, invite your legislator for a cup of coffee. Can we meet at such and such coffee house for 15 minutes? And I just have a few things to show you and I'll buy you a cup of coffee. And you never know, it might work. I mean, do anything you can to try and get those in-person meetings.
Even if it's not your legislator, if it's one of their staffers, that's worth it also too. So don't dismiss those people. They're the ones who have the ear of their boss, right? Does anybody know the Book of the Name by David Phillips? I don't know if I wrote that one down. I read a lot of books.
Wild Horse Country.
A lot of a lot of books down that I don't even know when I'm gonna have time to read them, but I ordered a couple and I've got even more on a list. So yes. Your legislator, anybody. So I want to say this, and I talked about this before. Before we started a nonprofit, we moved to North Dakota and we started seeing what was happening. And I kept calling my federal legislator saying, hey, they're getting rid of the horses in Theodore Roosevelt National Park. And they would, take my message or whatever. Or I remember one time I emailed Senator Hoven's office and I said, this is what's happening and that's happening. And the woman that I talked to all the time said something like, Senator Hoven is well aware of your concerns. Do you have anything else you want to add, Chris? And I just felt like she was giving me the middle finger. You know what I mean? And I was like, yeah, I have a lot to say. What are you doing about this? After I worked with our state legislators on the resolution, and I did do a horse talk, if you look on our YouTube channel with Representative Josh Boucher, I think that we might have done a couple with him. I asked him, would it have, now that I look at the resolution and getting that passed and the attention it got and how it got our senators' attention, I said, for all these years, I've been calling our federal legislators saying, hey, help, help, help. Would it have been better if I would have called you 6 years ago and said, hey, they're using Ganacon on this herd. I think they're sterilizing them. They're selling all the young babies. We're being left with just an older herd. It's going to die out. And he said, I think that would have been good because you would have put it on our radar and we could have taken some actions to try to help it. And I also want to point out that our legislators didn't even know what was going to happen when they passed the resolution in 2023. They didn't feel like, I remember one of the representatives asking me that during testimony. He said, what if we sign this? It's still the state of North Dakota against the federal government. This has no teeth. Oh, it had a lot of teeth, we found out. So that also empowered them too. It was a big learning experience for a lot of us. So when I say legislators, talk to anybody. Our legislators are in session here once every 2 years. When they weren't in session, I went to our Medora City Council meetings. They've now signed 3 resolutions over the last 3 years, and those are all going to be part of my testimony on Friday on why we need to do what I'm asking them to do. So legislator is anybody. And congressional staffers told us that too. Like, this is great. You have the state resolution. What does your county think? What does your city think? And those things all go to the federal legislators, and that's what they're hired for, right? That's what we hire them for, to be our voice in Washington, D.C. So
I want to make the statement that if the state or the local government officials are supportive of the wild horses and burros, that makes a big difference. And that's even part of the law, that they should consult the states. Right. Yeah.
So yeah. But yeah, we'll have some more talks coming up. And like I said, there were a couple of things. If there's things that you guys want to learn more about, send us an email, leave a message on our Facebook pages, and we can try to find some people to be a part of it. Like we said, we had more people contacting us the week before at wanting to be a part of it. Hey, I just found out, and it was like, we're on day 5. I told Heather we would go into like Tuesday or Wednesday, and we just couldn't commit to that much time. So yeah, so we have other people that we can do like smaller things during the year. And like I said, we'll invite a few people, and Heather has some plans too. So if you guys have thoughts or there's more that you want to know, let us know. So anybody else have anything? Heather, do you have any parting words?
I'm just wondering, didn't Heather have a packet that she designed for presentation to Congress people in Washington? Is there any way that we could possibly get our hands on that to use for our people, or was it just designed for that one?
No, anyone can use it. And I think Jen, who was part of this, has been redoing my website. My website's a little, it's coming together, but it's not is organized as Heather's is. But I think, Heather, you have that packet on your website, don't you?
I was actually just looking for it because I was going to share the link in the comments. I have the McCulloch Peaks one up, slightly irrelevant now, but yeah, I'll Galen, you're on my email list, aren't you?
Yeah, I am.
Okay.
I have your email,
Okay.
and I think you have
Okay.
mine.
Send me an email just as a reminder because I do have a million things to do now after being
Oh,
tied up
okay.
for 4.5
Yeah,
days. But
I'll send
I
you
will
a
also make a
request.
point. Yeah, I'll get the letter that Chris took for me to DC. It really focused on the Wyoming herds that they plan on zeroing out, and it had lots of valuable information about it and livestock grazing and the other herds as well. But I'll get that one put up, and I do think even though it's I think it was 13 pages, Chris, maybe I took it down to 10. I do think that it is a vital piece of information to share with everybody. And in fact, after Chris went to DC, she and I then had 4 or 5 Zoom meetings with some of the offices that she had visited, and we had asked them about the packets, and they all said they still had it. So I will get that put up on the website, and then anybody who wants it can email me, or I'll send out an email blast and let you all know it's there.
The other thing you can do, Heather, is make that part of your handouts for that we can put on our websites.
Okay. Yep.
If
and
anybody wants them, I'm happy to share the one-page documents that I do that are not herd or location specific. They kind of apply to wild horses everywhere.
Yeah, Barbara, we told people that we were going to ask the presenters to share things like that, so we can put them on our website so people can go back and, you know, get contact information, whatever it is that you have to share. So that'd be great.
Heather has them, but I'm happy to send them again if that's the easiest.
Would you please, Barbara?
Sure.
I know I have them, but I'm sure they're buried somewhere. Yeah, if you could just send it to both Chris and I, that'd be perfect. Thank you so much.
All righty.
Yeah, but thank you guys. You guys were all great too, and your questions were great. And I think it was refreshing for even a lot of the presenters to see how engaged you guys were, and really, you know, gave some hope that this was the right thing to do, and that there are enough people that care. And so share the videos, watch the videos again, ask questions, and we will try to get more educational things going. So please take a moment to take the survey and let us know your thoughts so that we can get that information recorded too. So
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody, for attending. And thank you to our speakers who are here with us right now.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate all your help. All right.
Thank
Everybody
you.
have a blessed night's sleep. Take care.
You
Thank
too.
you, everybody.
All the kudos to you organizers.
Thank you.
Thank you,
You
Ginger.
guys did an amazing job.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Galen.